Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me once again. My name is Wilkie and I'm here with a new Kritika online video. This video is going to be covering my Doomblade skill build. However, I'm going to be doing this in two separate videos now. The first one, which you're currently seeing, is going to be the PvE build, because upon the open beta and when we did receive the PvP changes, some of the skills are, well, let's just say they're not really that useful anymore, at least not in terms of damage. So quite a bit of things changed in terms of how Doomblade's PvP now. So the hybrid build I basically showed you in closed beta is like, it's not going to be fully efficient in PvE, and it's going to be very limited in PvP. So I'm going to be doing, as I said, the PvE skill build first in this video. So let's jump right into that. As I said, with everything, their builds might vary, and depending on certain likings and certain skills, you may or may not have different skills. So let's just go ahead over the first skill. Dark Slash is one of the key changes I have in this build that I have maxed in this build. The reason for that is it uses, or there's a awakening buff for Dark Slash, which I personally find very handy, and I like it quite a lot. It's a good combo connector. It uses very little mana. It has a very low cooldown, so it's always good to use chains of skills. So that is the reason why I actually maxed it for PvE this time. Phantom Cross is level 3. Why is level 3? Basically, I had 4 skill points left over and I dumped it to Phantom Cross. Really, even with the Awakening, I don't think Phantom Cross should be maxed at all. Like, nothing significant increases. The damage scaling is not the best, and it's more of a utility skill rather than a damaging skill. Now, Cutting Wave, the bread and butter of Doomblade. This is the major difference, or one of the major differences, between PvE and PvP. Because in PvE, this skill is golden. It deals so much damage, it gives you so much mobility, it's both a hard-hitting skill, a good utility skill. It basically combines everything together. Good repositioning tool. It makes it very easy to get behind targets. I showed that in the other video. Like, basically one right click, you're behind the enemy and even facing his back. So you don't even have to realign, and all you can do is then just go for Soul Vertex, for example, and you're gonna get a back attack combo. So it's very easy to do that. And generally that skill hits quite hard for the speed it's executed at. And as I said, it basically guarantees you to score back attacks on 50% of the time unless you're at some weird angle. So definitely max it, especially since it has a buff that gives you 10% attack speed and movement speed you've been using, and that applies even if you don't hit the enemy. So if you just randomly slash, you can see that the buff at the bottom refreshes. So very good passive. I like it a lot because movement speed and especially attack speed is really damn good for Doomblades. Deadly Draw. This is, I guess, one of the few skills that you don't have to max, but I personally would always max it. Super good damage, actually quite nice clear, ultra armor, ultra break. It opens up for, like, what I usually do is I go slash. I start off with Deadly Draw if the enemy is currently moving, or like if the boss is not stunned or something. So I started off the fight with Deadly Draw, and then I slash through. I just noticed that my power core actually gets consumed in that mode. That's kind of stupid. So yeah, but definitely the Deadly Draw is such a good skill. It's such a powerful skill. It stuns bosses very easily. It deals a heck of a lot of damage. If you go for back attacks, that skill hits really damn good. Like, that's a very good back attack number you just saw there. So very powerful skill. I like it a lot. Definite max for me. And it has an Awakening that gets 10% damage increase per level, so for me a must take. Dancing Shadows, similar to Phantom Cross, just a utility skill. Damage is not that bad, but not that great either. It's just a good ranged poke, which you don't really need for PvE, in my opinion. So I just left it a while. Like, the skill was really fancy at the beginning of playing Doomblade, but the more I played him, the more I realized that the skill is, at least in my opinion, at the current state of the game, not very useful. You might actually have your skill by revolving or that with the Dancing Shadows, but personally I think that skill is not that great. Oblivion, one of my personal favorite skills, with the only downside of it being crushing instead of everything else being slashing. But very good skill. I guess this is the combo I usually use. So many back attacks, so much damage. Just super good for mob clear, for bosses. I just really love that skill. So I maxed it. I think it actually is not a bad move given the fact that the initial impact hits quite hard and it's very easy to stagger bosses or mobs with it. That's both good utility, good AoE, and good damage. Purchaser Wave. Now, I know this is a very controversial move. So basically, this move has 4 uses, and you're like, well, it only has 3 charges. Yes, it does. So this is the first charge, right? The second one, I'm not this is the second one, and I think the third one is a full charge. So the difference is that obviously you can see that the mob gets dragged a lot longer, that the wave looks different, and the damage is higher. What you can do though is if you use Dancing Shadows and use Purgatory Wave afterwards, it's gonna send it straight through the mob. And as you can see, maybe a difference. The color is actually the color of the uncharged one, right? This is what it looks uncharged. But you may notice the difference that the mob actually gets dragged with it. So unlike the uncharged version, if you use it as a combo, or I guess as a animation cancel after Dancing Shadows, it still starts pulling mobs with it. So this is a bit of an irritating thing, because it looks identical to the uncharged version, but it pulls like the charged version. It still does less damage, as you can see. We're going for around 300k there, and for the charged version, we're actually going for like 500k. But if you use it after Dancing Shadows, and all you can do is the one hit Dancing Shadows and just fire it. It still is a good way to deal a good amount of damage from range, so that's the reason why I max the skill. Also, if you just have the time and you're alone and you want to charge and just blast everything in your path, that skill is really, really cool. Soul Vortex, I don't think I have to mention why I maxed that skill. Very, very good pull. Insanely nice AoE and utility. And I do like the passive that decreases the enemy armor, so it debuffs the enemy when they are in. I don't know what the percentage exactly is, or if it's 0.5% per hit or whatever it is. But I really like Soul Vortex, decent cooldown, very good utility. I just really love that skill. Soul Steal for PvE, personally, I don't think you have to max that skill. It deals heck of a lot of damage, especially fully charged. But honestly, you have plenty other moves that will allow you to deal faster damage, more mobile damage, and not leave you as vulnerable. Because you're like charging it, you're standing there for quite a while, and personally I just don't, it doesn't feel, at least not to me, it doesn't feel like it's a very good move and complements Doomblade's moveset, so there's that. That's the reason why I did not max it. Spectral Assault, really, really cool skill. It has 2 forms, I guess. The first one is if you press, or if you tap it once, you will send out the first wave. And if you then press it again, you're gonna dash afterwards and do the cross slash. Like, you can even fire it here and do a very good leap. So this can also be used as a mobility tool to like just move away, because it's a very, very long dash actually. The other uses is just hold it, and you're gonna instantly do the cross slash. So you have these 2 options. This is like gonna be a 3-hit combo, and if you just hold it, you're gonna instantly use the cross slash for, well, I guess combined damage. That, personally, I don't think if it makes any difference if you go for that way. If you're up close, I'd always go for the cross slash if you hold it down, because it's faster, and like, if you're up close to an enemy and doing these 2 hits might actually misalign it or screw your positioning up. So if you're up close to an enemy, behind them or not, I just say always hold it. Because as you can see, that's a very, very quick move. Especially if you hold it, the execution is quite quick. So definitely keep that in mind. This is also very commonly used in PvP. If you just hold it and go for the almost insta slash, very, very good, because it has an ultra break and an ultra status for yourself. So really, really good. And those are the 2 things. I did not actually put Awakening skill points into that because I dumped them into other skills. Spirit Barrage, I just really love that skill, and personally I had skill points left over, so I put them in here. I really love that skill. Damage is not bad, but it's not that great either. So if you don't like that skill at all or don't use it often, I'd personally say don't use it, but what I usually do is, like, as I said, I go for Deadly Draw, go behind, and then go for this. This is what I usually do on bosses. I just really love that skill. And it is very useful, but it's definitely not necessary to max. It also has an awakening, but it only increases by 5%. And I generally avoided that. Six Blade Leap, despite having decent damage, I think the main use for me on that skill is actually for the iframe. It allows you to dodge a lot of things. What a lot of people don't know is that it has an ultra break, so it can even be used to break the ultra state of enemies in both PvE and PvP. Heavy cooldown though, so I don't use it that frequently. As I said, I usually have it set up in my mind if the boss is going to use a certain move, or if there's going to be an undodgeable AoE that requires positioning, and I'm like, well, I have my Six Blade Leap ready, I can just jump up. Especially useful, for example, like Belladonna Manor, if she puts her Time Bomb, whatever it is, on you, you can easily dodge it with Six Blade Leap. I really like it. Ghost Blast, one of my most favorite skills. Super powerful move, heavy cooldown, super good utility. Ultra does not have an ultra break. It does pull though, so if the enemy doesn't have any armor, they basically get staggered instantly. It does not have an ultra break though. So keep that in mind. If you're going to whack a boss in the face and he has ultra armor on, you're not going to break it. And I took the Awakening just because I like those huge numbers on that move. Like, damn, do you see that? So good. I just really love that skill, so that's the reason I'm maxing. Shadow Stride, the scalings aren't actually bad on that move. Personally though, most of the times I just use it that way. It's good because it gives you, I'd say, like a fake iframe sort of thing. It allows you to dodge certain moves. It also allows you to position yourself mid-combat because the dash is a relatively good distance. A relatively good distance. So there's always that. As I said, damage isn't bad, but the most frequent use for me is basically if I'm like hitting the boss something and like I'm doing this or that, and then I just want to get out of the way, then I usually do that move and start moving. One thing to note about that move, if you just press and you don't move anything, you can see it has a relatively long idle animation, and you can sort of skip that by just inputting movements. You're gonna skip parts of the animation, so you're gonna be moving a bit faster. It's not a lot, but you can notice it. So I'd say definitely good use of that. And if you have the time, you can technically even charge that move, but it charges just so long that personally I don't think it's actually worth it to fully charge it unless you have an opening and everything else is off cooldown. But really, if you max Dark Slash, that skill actually, especially if you go for back attacks, is pretty good damage for a 3-second cooldown skill. As you can see, those are a million hits on a skill that is basically always ready. So I'd say Shadow Stride is cool and fun, but not really that necessary. And Ultimate Draw, I don't think I have to say anything. Very cool looking skill, insane amount of damage, very, very long iframe so you can easily dodge certain moves with it. And yeah, there's that. As I said, I pretty much covered most of the awakenings already with it. This is Opportune Slash. Slash resistance reduction 3%. I know this is not a lot, but you gotta see it from that perspective. Especially if you play with others. But even if you just play alone, if you're getting the hang of using Dark Slash, and as you just saw, it actually deals quite a bit of damage in your combos, then the debuff lasts for 10 seconds. I can show you that right now. It doesn't actually show. Oh, it does if you hover over it. The debuff lasts for 10 seconds. Remember, the skill has a cooldown of 3 seconds, so you pretty much can infinitely or indefinitely keep that debuff up on the enemy, which is really good. The debuff is also applicable, for example, like Abelard. Even if he has a shield up, you can still debuff him with that. So it's super easy to set up. And as I said, 3% debuff, it's 3% more slash damage, and every skill other than Oblivion deals slashing damage. So I'd personally take that. As I said, Phantom Cross, not really worth it. Deadlier Draw, Cutting Wave for Lightning Quake. Just very, very handy tools. And for PvE at least, you'll be using this so often that, yeah, I don't think there's any other choice between those two. As far as those at the bottom go, some people might like to level up Purgator Wave. I know a lot of people don't like Oblivion. I just really love that skill, so I put some points into that. Others might be like, oh, I do actually like Soul Steam PvE. Well, if you like it, always go ahead and do that. But yeah, this is pretty much all about my PvE skill build, and as I said, this is strictly for PvE. I do not recommend going into the PvP arena with that. You can still PvP with it, don't get me wrong. You can still PvP with it. But there are going to be a few things where you might fall short of damage. And basically, like I said, Cutting Wave deals minimal damage now on PvP. So that's one of the few things that you're definitely not going to max anymore. Anyways, this is all for Doomblade's PvE skill build. If you have any questions on Doomblades in general, I do get repeated questions about other classes. Right now, I'm only focusing on Doomblade because in closed beta, I basically knew we were gonna get wiped, so I branched out and I wanted to try out more things. But I do really like Doomblade, so I'm still gonna be focusing most of my time to grow that character. And once I'm at a comfortable level where I'm like, well, yeah, this is good, this is where I want to be at, then I'll probably start playing a bit on alts as well. But that might take a week or two, or maybe even a month. It really depends because of exams and everything else. So, but yeah, in general, if you have any questions about Doomblades, feel free to let me know. The only other thing I want to let you guys know is I don't exactly know when I will be putting out the PvP build because I'm still in the making of it. PvP, as I said, there were a lot of things that changed, and Doomblade now PvPs differently than you used to in closed beta. So this is first of all something I have to learn first, because when I started PvPing in open beta, I was like, how the hell am I even gonna kill people now? Like, I was hitting like a wet noodle because I had a, well, not so optimized skill build, and everything wasn't working that great, so I was still a bit puzzled, and I'm still a bit puzzled at this point, but I'll definitely keep working on that in the future. So there's that. Other than that, thank you guys for sticking around. As I said, any questions, feel free to post them down below. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next time.